Hey guys, we're coming down to the very end of this course this week and then one more week. So go for it, guys. I want to talk to you about the kaleidoscope of ministry. You know, the kaleidoscope. What a simple but marvelous device. I'm sure as a kid, I spent hours literally with kaleidoscopes. Invented by Sir David Brewster in 1816, a Scottish physicist, the kaleidoscope consists of a tube into which 2 or 3 or 4 rectangular mirrors, usually 3, are inserted, forming a long mirrored chamber. And upon these mirrors are reflected the images of bits of plastic, glass beads that tumble in a nearly flat object chamber at one end of the kaleidoscope. And this end of the kaleidoscope also has a round glass window for letting light into the mirrored chamber. And the other end of the kaleidoscope has an eyepiece for viewing the images reflected on the mirrors. Astounding. Not the physical device so much as its rotational visual effects, continually changing, continually beautiful. Well, a couple of key points, though, before I descend into physics so obtuse I can't extricate myself from it. First thing, a kaleidoscope makes these amazing geometric images from simple items, bits of colored plastic or glass or beads, unredeemable stuff fit for the trash bin. But the kaleidoscope transforms these useless and meaningless bits of junk into something beautiful. Now there's a sermon illustration for you. It captures something about the beauty that God can bring out of almost nothingness. And it also captures something about the design of this course. I wonder if you have felt from week to week that you are taking brief excursions down so many dead-end streets that don't seem to take you anywhere. But actually, this has been a carefully thought through process. It's kind of planned confusion so that you may see so many bits of thought, so many pieces of colored glass and plastic that when you put them together in your multi-mirrored kaleidoscope of sanctified creativity and imagination, you'll discover the hidden beauty of God's tapestry as ministry attains its global perspective. Anthony Giddens defined globalization like this. He said globalization can thus be defined as the intensification of worldwide social relations which link distinct localities in such a way that local happenings are shaped by events occurring many miles away, and vice versa. This is a dialectical process because such local happenings may move in an obverse direction from the very distanced relations that shape them. Local transformation is as much a part of globalization as the lateral extension of social connections across time and space, Giddens said. Now, what's fascinating is this. He was writing back in 1990. It's that era just at the end of the Cold War, but definitely before the advent of the internet, that great equalizer of cultures, that great globalizer of human initiatives, including that thing that we call ministry. We may be witnessing the end of global economy since this course began. Amazing, isn't it? And the rules-based order may not survive the destabilizing imperialism we're facing. But the global cat is out of the bag, and the level of human relationship, religious and worldview pluralism, and population movements, well, the global reality has forever changed. And ministry, and how it should be, and how it can be, and how it must be pursued, that's changed too. And leaders in churches who do not reshape, reinvent, reimagine themselves will simply not make it. So really, we're talking about some important stuff. Now, my hope has been to expose you to multiple levels on which this retooling must take place. I may have missed something along the way. Something significant may not be here. And I implore you, please let me know what you think is missing in the mix. And I'll try to incorporate it in future iterations of this course. But all that brings us to today. I had intended in this week's collection of readings to introduce you to several models of successfully incarnating a global theology of ministry in different contexts. I had collected a few of these. You could take a look at Miller and Yamamori's Global Pentecostalism, for an example, a section of which you've already read in this course. But as I was nosing around, I discovered that there are so many levels on which this idea must be discovered. So I changed my tactic, and I've tried to introduce you to a number of different fields where a global theology of ministry could be fruitfully deployed. For instance, consider ministry to diaspora populations and how many different ways it could be conceived. David Dunnates helps us in his papers, 3 Models of Acculturation, where he demonstrates that not all diaspora groups have the same goals. Some seek to assimilate, others to retain their distinctness, functioning in both the host culture and in their own cultural enclave, and still others prefer to live separately from the host culture. Each of these requires a distinct model of ministry. And this throws us all over again into the area of global theology of ministry. Another example is Susan Baker, who in the introduction to the collection of essays, Globalization and Its Effects on Urban Ministry in the 21st Century, she gives us a kind of a 30,000 foot, or is that a 10,000 meter, anyway, perspective on the meaning of urban ministry under the lens of globalization. The city, she says, is a massive global target and promises to only grow into the 21st century. And this presents its own set of unique challenges, making this context in some ways more important than any other factor, including ethnicity, for reckoning on how to do ministry. Wow. Now, Feuder and Castellanos, in their book, New Heart for the Community, pick this up in the context of American urbanization, the city of Chicago, and the surprising trends, for instance, of gentrification on the one hand and suburban poverty on the other. This book has such a variety of interesting chapter titles and topics. It's worth a look just at the table of contents, and you can do that because it's on the DTL website. The reading assignment, though, is relatively simple. Just take a look at the selected introductions to parts of the book to give you a sense of the variety of global ministry required right here at home. Now, lest we should imagine that global ministry only concerns itself with geographic and ethnicity matters, it's good to remember that cultural barriers impose themselves in many different contexts. The chapter out of Sutton and Cooper's Digital Theology challenges us to consider yet another dimension of the word global. This book is an early contribution to the topic of virtual ministry, and some of these books are taking on an increasingly more theological tone than you might first imagine. You see, it's not all about technology. It's about people. It's about reaching people. It's about a theology of encounter. Pluderman's Leading Across Cultures might have been a candidate for the intercultural communication module. But here the author gives us a useful example of creating a global theology of leadership that transcends simple cultural concerns. Pluderman seeks to actively integrate the reality of cross-cultural challenge with a biblical theology of ministry, a biblical theology of leadership. Not just secular leadership, but ministry leadership. And then finally, I want to mention Charles Van Engen's paper, The Global Church, from a fascinating book called Globalizing Theology. Using personal computers and the internet as a model of global ministry, Van Engen shows that there's an unescapable connection between the localized church, the here and now church, and its Catholicity, and that this connection immerses us all into global mission. So it really is kaleidoscopic. I tell you, as you take all of these various pieces and fragments of theology and sociology, ministry and humanity, and turn them over and over, the variety of insights keep changing and the beauty keeps multiplying. And the challenge for us is to find the commonalities that undergird in order to shape our own notion of global ministry. I hope you've been challenged by this course, and I hope there are things that help you to rethink how you want to be and what you want to do in the days to come. See you next week.